Verne, the man of technical magnificence. Welcome. Well, name your guests first. Phil Broadbury, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Chris Clay, how are you?
Good morning.
And Feargal McCormack. And these are part and parcel of the world outreach of PKFFPM, Accountants to the Planet. And what's wrong, Sean? Oh, my microphone is rubbing. I'm doing my best to make sure it shan't. It won't. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
This is a new marriage made in heaven between PKF and FPM, and you're now the one, as one flesh, going out to conquer the universe. Yes? What do you say? Well, you think that would be half true, Phil?
Well, I'll take that one. I'll start off with that. I'll explain
we got him speechless there ever so briefly.
So basically, as you know, Rowan, in June, FPM decided to join the PKF International Network of independent firms throughout the world. And they basically have about 2,200 partners there in over 300 locations in the world, and over 25, upwards towards 25,000 staff. And the reason we did that was that we felt that as a business, accountancy practice and tax practice, that we needed to provide opportunities for our clients to facilitate knowledge throughout the world. So global expertise, but local knowledge. So if we had businesses exporting from this area all around the world, we had to be able to have a quality organization. And we did a lot of research. And at that time, we chose PKF. Since that, we're more convinced than ever it was the right choice. We're very honored that yesterday we had the World Chief Executive of PKF, John Sim, in town. He was to meet the First and Deputy First Minister, but because of Dr. Paisley's death, that had to be cancelled.
You could have brought him into me.
Well,
you didn't. You brought two others.
He met
very
them.
welcome,
Well,
lads.
I brought the younger generation.
The younger generation coming
that.
on. Yeah.
But what I was going to say was when he announced the extension of our Belfast office.
Wow.
And that's a big step forward.
You came here, lads, Chris and Phil. It's new to you here. I'm assuming you didn't have great Northern Irish connections before this. Suddenly you realise we're not sort of Hicksville, that there's something substantial happening here, that we are players in the real world.
Well, I didn't have any experience of Northern Ireland, mainly because in the previous job where we did a lot of travelling, my boss was from Belfast.
Wow.
So any trips to Belfast that came up, he would say, "I'll have that," and I'll be going home. So I had plenty of times in Dublin and Cork, but never actually got to the north. So
the capital of Ireland, Cork, I would say.
Well,
they love Cork. Cork is a wonderful assignment to get. You know.
Absolutely.
So in your role as operations manager, what do you do? What makes your money for you?
The biggest part of what I do is implement collaboration systems. So we've got this global network, 2,200 partners, almost 300.
2,200 partners all over the world.
All over the world, operating about 440 countries. And I implement collaboration and communication systems, so all of those people can share knowledge easily, can connect easily. So knowledge management systems, directory systems. And
you Chris, you're marketing, so presumably you bring the clients to the business.
I do. Phil creates the collaboration platform. I think I work with the member firms to really come together to service current and hopefully future clients. Really multinational capabilities.
Yeah. What are the issues internationally at the moment that face you on the Monday morning when you come in at the beginning of your week? What are the issues that are hot at the moment around the world?
Well, I think from a member perspective, I think PKF member firms tend to focus still very much on the SME and the family-owned business. But I think in reality, most firms, if they don't have international operations, they have international aspirations, really. And I think the big thing that we're able to do as a network is really connect people up for that.
Can any firm in the modern world of cyberspace, of social media and all the rest of it, can any firm exist within the isolation of its own geographic borders? And surely to survive, you've got to get out there.
Well, this is one of our messages really around some of our standard systems, because every business has a digital element. So every business could have customers and contacts anywhere now with websites, with social sites. So one of the things we're trying to do is raise the bar of all the firms, so everyone's performing in that digital landscape to a similar level. Because you're absolutely right. You can connect with anyone at any point, anywhere now.
Yeah, Feargal, this is a great development, a great move forward, because you've always been bigger than the sum of the parts of the business. You've been always looking beyond the horizon. You've been taking challenges in your stride. This is now placing you in a networking sense, in a position where you can enhance the product with your experience, and you can draw in from significant experience overseas.
Yeah, well, we've always recognised that the island of Ireland is 5 million people. We've always recognised there's now a global market. We've always recognised that those businesses who are surviving and prospering at present, even through the recession, who adjusted, who've shown that agility, that flexibility, they were businesses who recognised two things. Either they had to export themselves, or they had to target businesses which were exporting in order to grow their revenues. It was one or the other. In that context, it's really important to have access to resources and best practice thinking around the world. And what a network like PKF does is it provides an opportunity for us to enable our clients to operate efficiently wherever they wish to operate. And you take the last 4 weeks, we have had clients who we have put in contact with Brazil, with Australia, with South Africa. And to be able to know and to have the confidence that there are quality control systems in place which ensure that any of these firms, just like at FPM, have quality systems, quality technical capability, people skills. And really, you've heard me say so often, business is all about people. People and relationships. And this network is all about people.
Yeah.
The difference is it's people all around the world. But what we're hoping to achieve, and why the two guys are here and the World Chief Executive yesterday is, like, if you think about it, this is a very small country. For us to have 3 people of this international calibre visit us and visit our offices, and today host a workshop for our staff.
Well, that's happening. I hadn't realised, the workshop for the staff.
Well, that's what the two guys are doing today.
But Phil, the business of 3,000 people almost involved, of clients and colleagues in the business. How do you remain people-centred when you have that kind of volume of interest?
Well, the 2,200, that's partners.
Yes, 2,000.
In terms of total staff across all of the firms, there's near 20,000.
My goodness. Where did it all start? It's one of the world leaders, of course, blue chip.
Yeah, well, Panel Kerr Foster was a consultant. It came together, I think, started in.
Believe it or not, there's a debate over whether it started in Dublin or New York. over breakfast. This is
a bit like you. He's PKF and he started a world-beating enterprise. You're FPM and you've done the same thing.
Well, the only difference is, to be fair, to put things in perspective, we are a small business which hopefully offers good and best practice. PKF grew from small acorns to obviously a very large organisation. Yeah. It's fair to say, Rowan, that it started off initially, this is over 100 years ago, obviously, really? Interesting from a Dublin early startup, and then moved away from Dublin. But hotel and the hospitality sector was a key specialism at that stage, and today that continues to be one of the leading sector specialisms of the
within the company,
within the organization, and certainly it's one role that we as a firm believe it can bring considerable value added to what we can offer on the island of Ireland. And as you know, I think you know a little bit about us, we have a fair bit of expertise and knowledge in the hotel and restaurant sector.
Absolutely.
But I can tell you it's nothing to what PKF have.
Yeah.
And combining the PKF international expertise is tremendous.
We have perhaps something that PKF don't have, and you in particular. We created a city, Newry. We said to Her Majesty, yes, indeed, we'd like Your Majesty. We think we're capable of being a city. And Her Majesty said, oh, yes, I think you're very jolly good. Yes, we'll do that thing. And we got together as a community, and that's our strength. We're stronger as we look north, as we look south. We're in the economic corridor. We have shown a magnanimity towards everyone here, where the only criterion was not the criteria that you hear very often within the news about us, of flags and parades and rubbish. it's a minority in there doing that. You can't eat flags, but you can actually eat the product of business, good business. That's where we're at, you know. What do you make of us coming to us as newcomers to this part of the world?
We came in yesterday afternoon, and I have to say it's been a thoroughly enjoyable experience so far. We had a tour of FPM offices yesterday, and then a fantastic meal. I forget the name of the hotel. But
the Whistledown Hotel last night.
Looking over the loch.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yes,
Absolutely
Had you been
stunning.
there on Wednesday night, I saw it from my balcony, you would have the most gorgeous full moon. But that would have necessitated a beautiful woman beside you saying, "My darling, look at the moon." We talk nonsense in this program as well, you know. But we get there, we always do. It's good. We have things happening in our community at the moment, in the wider community. We have a big divorce, talking about beautiful creatures. Scotland may well divorce and go its own way. There's warnings by Henry Riley this morning, talking in Scotland, that if they go their own way, it'll have adverse effects here, Feargal, in Northern Ireland. It's still too close to call. Is that your view from across the water, lads?
It certainly seems that way from all of the coverage that I see. I think the Better Together campaign seems to have been scaremongering almost a little bit too much. It seems to be quite a negative story, the no story.
Methinks it is a sin to protest too much, and that's what's coming out of Cameron.
Yeah,
you know, help, I'm sinking.
Yeah. Personally, I'd like to see a much more positive story.
I was in Scotland, I think it was 3 weeks ago, with the PKF member firm there for a visit, and I arrived on the evening the second debate was held. And so I was there for the following morning, and there was still a general feeling that whilst Alex Salmond the perception was he'd won that debate, there was still a kind of, we're not going to do this. But what's happened over the last 3 weeks, it's just gathered massive momentum compared to where it was when I was there 3 weeks ago.
I'm just wondering to what extent the momentum is the consequence of the hype, the media hype. And we are media. I hate that phrase, the media, as though it was sort of orbiting aliens on the lower edge of the ionosphere. That's not what we are, the media, but there's been an unconscionable kind of whipping of it up instead of letting it take its own course and see what's happening.
Well, you mentioned earlier about cyberspace and social networks. I had a look at a couple of YouTube videos of some of the local sort of speeches and demonstrations. And everything I saw from the Yes campaign, and this is filmed on mobile phones, videos. So
that's the way it is now.
This isn't sort of a really high production.
Yeah, that's the power base.
But it was there was so much enthusiasm for yes. But then such a negative vibe for no, and I think that's been a great shame. I think they could have made a much bigger, more positive story about staying together than they have. All of the, it seems like big business has been doing this. No, don't do that. You can't survive. You're only small. And I think that would get my back up a bit.
It would surely.
I think the message has just changed as well, hasn't it? To let's stick together.
Yeah, let's stick together. Yeah.
It's suddenly,
there's bad psychology here, I think, and it just seems to me that it's running strongly from behind and from a very proper expectation that fiscal wisdom would obtain when push came to shove, that it's now been let go, and please don't go, it's going to be divorce. If you go, you'll be gone forever, my darling Scotland.
I think, to be fair, there's a couple of issues there. I think, whatever bed somebody slept in the night before the referendum, they'll still be sleeping in the next day, whatever shop they went to.
It'll be a different bed, though, because the effects will be very... What's the currency going to be, for a start?
Let's just take a rational approach, first of all. The bottom line is that in any situation, the status quo, the authority, if you run anything, you'll always get 20% who are anti-establishment.
Yes,
that's
of
number
course.
one. Number two, it has to be acknowledged that it's always easier to make a campaign for change, because the key to that argument is, that advocacy is, well, it can be better than what's happened before, but you're not telling anybody what it's going to be like. No. It's all forecast.
It's power without responsibility.
Now, I think personally, I think the most significant thing for this island, and perhaps for Scotland, is that if this was coming in isolation of purely a Scottish vote, I think it would be very significant, but not as significant. I think the background of Great Britain voting perhaps potentially to leave the EU is considerably more, makes the Scottish vote particularly more significant. And the reason it does that is that if Scotland left and Britain stays in the EU, it's not okay, it's a different currency, it may well stay sterling, but there's tons of examples of that. As we have here, we're Euro-friendly here.
Indeed.
But it's a different ballgame if Britain comes out of Europe. Because if Britain comes out of Europe, you're then potentially into border controls between North and South.
Yes.
Between Scotland and Britain, or for example, should Ireland go back into the sterling area? Should Ireland pull out?
Yeah.
My gut feeling is that Ireland psychologically will stay in Europe, but actually their business is closer to Britain and America. So I think that from an island economy perspective, it would be very challenging if Scotland was in the euro, if the Republic was in the euro, and if Northern Ireland was out of Europe.
Yeah.
So I think
with Britain.
With Britain. So I think that those are. I think the sad thing is that there was a further mistake made. I believe now in hindsight, any referendum should take a minimum of 60% to pass, because I think what's going to happen now is you're going to have another referendum. And you're going to, maybe 15 or 10 years time. But I think that a referendum. The GEA has as many false runs, but one thing it has, to make a significant change, it takes a 65% vote.
Aye,
and in reality, that's very fair, because I believe if there's a momentum and it's 70%, it should change.
Yeah.
But 51% either way is a very difficult thing to be taking the status of the decisions that will be taken.
Absolutely, absolutely. How right you are. This man is very clever. He says he comes out with things that are
unfortunately, I don't think
through.
brains are part of my nature, Roman. Go ahead.
No, they've been part of your nature since early days, because the philosophy you espoused while at grammar school isn't far removed from you today. I have seen your essays and I know what I'm talking about. Phil and Chris, this is a tiny, tiny, tiny morsel of a wider world of need and of changing economy, with China coming up, America borrowing, China being the power player, but now China's starting to sink a bit. What are you finding out on your travels around this world as you expand the 2,200 partners of PKF? What are you finding out about the economy? Are you optimistic? Are we growing as we should be?
Well, recent experience I had last week was at the Africa conference in Johannesburg, and they had a great speaker. The managing director for Barclays Bank came and did for Barclays Bank Africa. Dr. Mabuba did a great speech on investment. African.
Thank God.
Great speech on investment in Africa.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he was talking about was that the big banks, and particularly Barclays, or his side of Barclays, were doing investments based on stakeholder need rather than purely shareholder need.
Yes.
So making an investment in a business in Africa and thinking about where do the employees live.
Yes, yes.
Are they housed well? Are they paid well?
Yeah.
Are they taking a real deep view at their investments,
and not simply a kind of colonialist, fiscal colonialist removal of the well-being. Leave it.
Yeah, rather than just saying, well, how much profit are you going to return Barclays Bank next year? Much more, what are you actually going to invest in this community?
Yeah.
What are you going to invest in?
And are Barclays thinking that way? Is that what he said?
Absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Mabuba, he's had an absolutely fantastic career. I couldn't tell you now exactly how long he's been with Barclays Bank Africa, but a wonderful, wonderful speaker, very inspirational, talking about investment from all areas. Did talk a lot about China.
Yeah.
And there was two schools of thought there. One was very positive, that the Chinese money was really helping to develop countries. I mean, I've read a bit about what they're doing in Zimbabwe, but don't know too much about details.
Wherever you go in Africa, there's the Chinese machine, the motorbike. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. In Nigeria, for example, they have elections next year, and that may bring some chilling down and some easement to the intensity of conflict there at the moment. But Nigeria, hugely profitable economy, but wrongly used very often. I've seen the queues for a day long to get petrol from refineries that they don't refine there. They export the crude and bring it back in again. There's nonsense going on.
I mean, Africa's an amazing continent, and they've got so much good there. They have their fair share of troubles, probably more than their fair share of troubles. But the only negative story I heard on the Chinese investment was about building roads and railways, but really just to get the resources out. just to get the raw materials. But one of the stories Dr. Mabua from Barclays was saying was about Botswana. They have a $7 billion industry on diamonds, the world's richest diamond source. And he was saying, well, why is that 7 billion? Because they're just digging them out the ground. They're not polishing them. They're not shaping them. They're not.
Not value adding.
They haven't got to deal with.
But we should be doing that.
We should be doing it, and that would turn a
That
turns a 7 billion industry into 70 billion.
They go at the moment where to Holland or whatever for the diamond
They
markets.
ship them off to India, and then they get polished and cut, and then they get shipped to Europe and set. So why don't you move those people to Botswana, do it all locally, and then suddenly you've got a 70 billion industry in one country.
It's rewarding, Phil, that this kind of thought process exists in the modern Africa. That it's not all about hunger, starvation, that there is hope. There is education. I know this personally. I know things are moving forward. But now what you're telling me is that the people at the top, the African people in charge of the banking system, they've got a handle on this as well, big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And investing in that community and in those stakeholders of a business rather than just purely shareholder.
Last word to you, sir. Where are we going? What's hot with you this week?
Well, I think there's a number of interesting things over the past 7 days. In the south, for example, the revenue receipts are significantly higher than planned. That will have a knock-on effect in the upcoming budget in the south. You got to remember they were originally forecasting further draconian measures. It looks now as if that won't happen. Looks as if you may even see a little bit of easing. With an election 12 months down the line, you may see a little bit of easing in income tax rates. I think here in the north, well, staying in the south for a second, the major survey last week showed the most significant rise in people and business confidence in 7 years. I think that's quite significant. Growth in the south is now forecast for the next 3 years, a minimum of 3.5% to 4%. Wow. That's quite significant growth.
It is good growth.
In the north, probably just about 1%.
Difference
if you put this into context, Ron, in the famine years, the population in the south was 8 million, and the population in England, UK mainland, was 19 million. It's now 5 million on the island and 66 million. So there is a belief now that learning the lessons of the Celtic Tiger, of the collapse, learning those lessons, the Irish economy is exceptionally well placed to grow significantly over the next 10 years. Now, how they plan to do that? They plan to do that by, even through the recession, you've got to remember, they didn't cut back on R&D expenditure. Their infrastructure, we all know, thankfully, the banks had to pay for it in the collapse. But their infrastructure now is phenomenal. So the reality is that I think the Irish economy is in very good state. I think that if Scottish referendum is a no vote, I think, I make the forecast here for your own.
We've done it before.
I believe within 12 months, corporation tax powers will be devolved to the Northern Ireland Assembly.
Wow.
And I believe within 12 months you will have a commitment on significant corporation tax reductions over a 4-year period.
Well, we shall wait and see.
But I have to stop you while we're here today. That will give rise to significant FDI in Northern Ireland, what has been happening in the south for foreign direct investment. And that's where we believe our decision to join an organisation like PKF will be invaluable. Because we wish to be well placed to service that foreign direct investment.
And also, you see, Chris and Phil, we have a problem here in that we're heavily dependent on the public purse. And yet, with that assistance, with that crutch of the public purse, all we can forecast is 1% growth in the year ahead. The Republic of Ireland, which doesn't have that, it's cut adrift on its own well-being, its own excellence. It's 3.5, as you're saying.
Yeah, but the difference
There's an imbalance there.
But you have to understand why that is as well. If you don't have the exchequer wealth that the British economy has, the Republic goes out to attract profitable businesses by giving them tax perks.
Isn't that what we want?
Correct. What we do here is we give people large grants. Now, what that really means is, that means you get the capital-intensive industries that aren't necessarily people-intensive, number one, and number two, they're industries that may take longer to make profits.
Yeah.
In the Republic, they attracted 14 of the top 15 pharmaceutical companies in the world because they're profitable. And what they offered was very significant tax breaks. Now, this new corporation tax rate, if we get it, Rowan,
Yeah.
we'll be on a level playing field.
Absolutely.
And to be fair to the Republic, they're encouraging it because they realise that they only have limited capacity and people at present. And if they can get on the same island a further potential to expand their existing FDI businesses, it's good for the island economy.
But it's interesting that, you know, 25 years ago I was doing nationwide programs on RTE, then at the beginning of it, and even then they had big pharmaceuticals. You know, the Merck Sharps and Domes of this world, the Wellcomes.
Sorry, well, that's because you got to remember this policy came in about 35. Lamass was the man who originally created the blocks. Then you had Whitaker. Then you had a guy called Kieran. I can't think of a second.
Whitaker was one of our own, of course, from Rostrevor.
And still living.
And still, oh yes, thanks
Ken
to
Whitaker,
God. Yeah, Ken.
And again, Whitaker was very significant. The gentleman won't realise this. Whitaker facilitated the first ever meeting of an Irish Taoiseach Prime Minister with Terence O'Neill at the time, who was the Prime Minister in the North. Dr. Paisley, who's now just died, all hell broke loose.
Oh, it did surely.
Snowballs
and...
I
must tell you, you will admire my entrepreneurial skills, gentlemen. Once upon a time, 30 years ago, when I owed the Bank of Ireland the enormous amount of money of £10,000 and wasn't sure then how I was going to pay it off, I thought to myself, I know, I just need 6 months to do this. And my manager wasn't looking too politely or happily at me. So I contacted Ken. I got his, and I sent him a letter. I said, "Dear Ken, I haven't seen you this long time in Rostrevor, but this is the story. I need 6 months and then you'll have all your money. So it's a good thing to invest in me." And he put the Assistant General Manager of Northern Ireland on the case. I got my breathing space. He got his 10,000 further down the line. That's good. Listen, thanks for coming in. We have good news to end with here because, well, it's not to end with, it's a beginning, because the end of this month, on the 30th of September, in the Canal Court Hotel in Newry, we have a Department of Employment and Learning jobs fair, where we're bringing together several hundred jobs providers and several thousand job seekers. So there's an interface of need and needy, and that's happening. And the lady who came in to me yesterday to tell me about this was Roisin Sloan from the department, but lives up in Jonesborough. And this is what thanks for coming in. This is what you had to say.